Hello, I'm Dr. Maha Gingrich. Coming up next on Charlotte, a city of international success, I will be interviewing Mr. George Kushel. He is the founder of Showmars Restaurant. Welcome to Charlotte, a city of international success. I'm Dr. Maha Gingrich. Today our guest is Mr. George Kushel, and he is the founder of Showmars Restaurant. Mr. Kushel, welcome to our show.
It's good to be here.
I know everybody calls you Mr. C, right?
They do, because I started with Mr. C's Southern Country Chicken. I was in the fried chicken business for a while before I got into the Showmars.
So that's where the secret of Mr. C is coming from. You are originally from Greece?
I was born in Greece in 1939.
Your story is absolutely amazing for me, and I don't have enough time, I wish I did, to explore, but I would like to capture a little bit of your story today. I would like for you to talk about when you were a child and the refugee camp story. I think it is very interesting to me.
Well, you're amazing to me too, and I'm surprised that there's not a show about you.
Thank you, thank you.
But like I said, I was born in 1939 and witnessed the ravages of World War II.
Wow.
The Second World War was devastating with us as a child in the village, which was a 2,000 population, was a pretty large village. And we went through having our whole village burned down by, I saw my house burned to the ground. There were only 4 walls left. And my father built a tiny little room that all 6 of us slept, ate, and lived in. And the only thing we had for comfort and support was a wood burning stove.
Who were the 6? Your parents and then
Siblings? My brother and sister. I had 2 sisters.
Okay.
And a brother. There were 4 kids in the family, and the 2
and
parents.
then your parents.
That's correct.
Wow.
Actually, my little sister was born in that room.
Oh, wow.
That's correct.
Wow, that's amazing. And then you had to move to a refugee camp at one point?
Well, actually, no. My father was mayor of the town, and what happened during the war, during the German occupation, the so-called freedom fighters took to the hills supposedly to get rid of the Germans, but they were indoctrinated in the communist doctrine and became, their number one motive was to overthrow the government and make Greece a satellite country, just like Albania, Romania, and so forth. So consequently, there was a strife, a terrible civil war that I witnessed. And during that time, while they were up in the hills, the Germans put out a decree that for every German killed, there'd be 100 civilians. And they took us to the town square in front of a firing squad. And luckily, the International Red Cross saved us. And so my father at the time was so anti-communist, pro-American, that he was a marked man. And the guerrillas were after him. And one day, one of the leaders came to the house, and luckily my father wasn't there. He picked me up and told my mother, where does John think he's going to go? All I have to do is take the boy with me. And luckily, my mother prevailed. She had gone to school with him, and obviously he was fond of her, like most people are. And he left. And so it didn't take long for us to move to Sparta, where there was protection. There was an army base there. And we lived across the prison yard. And that's where I told you early on that I had my first business experience
Yes.
because I had my mother make coffee and I would sell it to the guards. So that's
like
how I
that.
started
I
in
like
business when I was 7 years old.
You were 7 years old when you started your business.
That's correct.
Absolutely. And then our next step is for you. You came to United States, right?
Correct. Actually, my mother was born here in Evanston, Illinois, and she was taken back to Greece when she was 6 years old and remained there. And we had a good life until the war. But she had lost her citizenship, so it was much easier for us to go to Canada, and from Canada retained her citizenship and came to the States in 1951. We went to Canada in 1949 and came to the States in 1951. But on the way to Canada, we sailed into New York Harbor.
Wow.
And the sight of the Statue of Liberty was just the gateway to paradise. And I'll never forget that experience.
Well, that is so symbolic as well for you.
Absolutely.
Even though you were so young, it is extremely symbolic. You know, here is the dream and the freedom both
That's
come
correct.
together.
But it's interesting, under circumstances like that, you sort of grow up pretty quick. Even at 10 years old, you were aware of the world around you. You saw a lot.
Yes.
And your dreams and wishes and aspirations became vivid in your mind, and America was what everybody hoped for.
Dream. Yep, absolutely. So from New York now, did you?
We went straight to Canada, to Chatham, Ontario.
Okay.
And so I had my first job there at 10 years old in a big 300-seat restaurant washing dishes.
Washing dishes, and you were only 10 years old.
That's correct.
Okay.
I couldn't lift the handle of the dishwasher, so I had a pole that would push up the handle, anchor it on the table, move the basket in, and I was making $3 a week. But it didn't take long for me to find a better job at Capital Lunch, and I was a soda jerk at 4 times the money.
Oh, wow. That's funny. And from there, did you come to Charlotte directly?
And then when we had my mother's citizenship reinstated, we came to Charlotte.
That was 1950.
In 1951.
Now, what did you do when you come to Charlotte? Because obviously you went to school, but what about your parents?
Well,
did they
my
work?
father was 50 years old
Yeah.
with 4 little children. He couldn't speak
Right.
English. And yet, because of the Greek community in Charlotte, actually Holy Trinity was a safe haven for us. And
The church.
The church. And we had relatives. My father had a brother here. He also had a cousin who I guess felt sorry for us. So he knew that my father had the entrepreneurial spirit because he had done so much back in Greece.
He was a mayor too.
And so he took a chance on us by buying this raised grill on Monroe Road and Eastway Drive. That was a center block building that he bought for $20,000 and leased it to us on the hope that we can make it.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting that the first month we lost all the business that it had. We didn't have much, but because, we were strangers and didn't know the language.
Don't know the language and how to do it.
But it's so interesting because the 50s were the best years of our lives. It did not take long for that little Greek family to be accepted by the neighborhood, and our business just took off.
Wow.
My 16-year-old brother at the time became the manager because the kids learned the language quickly.
Very quickly, yes.
And he was, to this day, an incredible businessman. He was able to expand the restaurant. The Coliseum was being built on Independence Boulevard. That's a Bojangles Arena now.
Right.
And that restaurant that we had leased had a basement, and the parking lot had the front and one side. The other side and the back was a big hole. So he went to the construction people at the Coliseum and made a deal for $1 a load to bring 500 loads of dirt.
Oh, goodness. And dump it in there to fill the hole.
Dump it in there. And then the first hockey team came to Charlotte. And those guys were drinking a lot of beer. But we were a family restaurant.
Yeah.
So Pete built a bar next to the dining room and had a television where we would watch the boxing matches and sports events way back in 1953.
Yes. Oh, my gosh.
And it was incredible.
It could be the
how
first sports bar
that
then.
business flourished.
Yeah.
It flourished.
Now, so who cooked?
My mom and dad.
Oh, your mom and dad were cooking.
That's correct.
And then your brother was serving.
And I was washing dishes.
You were washing dishes again?
I was making banana splits, sundaes, sodas. It was great.
You know, and obviously you're going to school at the same time. Did you ever think, did you go to college then at that point?
I did, but getting back to Johnny's Grill,
Right.
I was at Oakhurst Junior High, and Mr. Randall, the principal, would let me and my sister go to the restaurant at lunchtime to help them out in the restaurant.
Geez.
And Richard Vinbert's dad would come 3-4 times a week
Our
to have
former
lunch.
mayor of Charlotte.
What a wonderful man. He embraced my mom and dad. He would go straight to the kitchen and give him a hug and support, and it's just, it was just.
So you had a lot of support to go, to complete your school as well.
That's true.
And was it given? Did they want you to go to college?
Well,
because everybody wants doctors and engineers.
Every immigrant parent
yes.
would want their children to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Exactly, that's what I was at.
To please my parents, I said, I'm going to be a lawyer. So
okay.
I graduated from East Mecklenburg High School, was fortunate enough to go to be admitted at Duke University.
Oh, wow.
And while there, I took NROTC. So I became a U.S. Naval officer as soon as I graduated. And that was enough break for 2 years. I had planned to go to Chapel Hill to law school.
Yeah.
But at that same time, my parents had moved to Greece for about a short period of time, 5 years actually. Oh. So with them away and the fact that I suspected they sold the restaurant so I wouldn't be in it.
Oh, I didn't realize this. So they sold the restaurant.
That's correct.
So you were going to college.
That's
now, that's pretty expensive to go to college. How did you make it there? I mean, financially, I would think that would have been very challenging for you.
I worked my way through school. It wasn't hard at all
because you were not afraid of working.
Well, I worked in the dining halls at Duke. And I also was selling things on the side. Back then, people were smoking a lot. So I had Zippo lighters in my pocket. So when somebody asked for a light, I would sell them a Zippo lighter. And then, every year, the freshman class outside of Cameron Indoor Stadium would go to get their textbooks. An American Collegiate Dictionary was required for the freshmen.
Okay.
Well, I went to a fire sale at a bookstore, and I bought a whole bunch of American Collegiate Dictionaries. So I would carry one down to Cameron Indoor Stadium and sell them at half price.
Oh, you were definitely a business person.
And then there was the
little.
dope shop, where, the soda shop, and they would have bulletin boards that people would sell things. And the kids at Duke had more money than me, but I would go put things up for them to buy, and that was another way.
That's another way to make money. So did you finish, because of our time now, did you finish your degree?
Well, of course.
What was
in
it in?
economics.
Economics, okay.
I finished in economics and I got commissioned in the U.S. Navy. That's another wonderful story that I've had.
I'm sure it is. Now, Mike, bringing back to where you are today. So after you finished your degree, what happened? Did you look for jobs? What?
Well, actually, and I think this is important to tell you because my experience in the Navy was extraordinary. I was fortunate enough to take 2 helicopters to the village where I was born.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I took the students for rides. And then I was gunnery officer aboard ship. So I took my division of 3 busloads of sailors to the village, and we took presents to the school kids, and at the same time exposed the sailors to real life.
Yeah.
My uncle, who ran the taverna, the eating place, also had a little general store. And what's so interesting is that he let them come in and said, get all the candy bars, anything you want. And they were so excited and so incredibly impressed with the hospitality of the village. And so it was just an extraordinary experience. And
so bringing you back to now, I'm very excited. I want to get the story on. How did you start Showmars?
Well, actually,
you started Mr. C's first.
I started Mr. C's.
Okay.
I had the business in my blood, so I've had to get into the restaurant business. But the first thing I did when I got out of the Navy was go back to Duke University's placement office and applied for a job.
Sure.
And I wanted to go with the Marriott Corporation. Back then, they were really big in the restaurant business with the hot shops. So I applied to about 20 different companies, and one that I wanted to go to was the Marriott Corporation.
Yeah.
I got accepted to every single one of them except the Marriott Corporation.
Why?
And it was devastating to me.
Absolutely.
Well, I had to find out why.
Yeah.
So I demanded to see the head personnel guy at their headquarters. And I was granted that privilege. And I went and I said, at least you can, I
Tell me
deserve
why.
to know.
Yeah.
And he said, you failed the profile test. They had given me an essay. And I said, what do you mean? Yeah. He said, you're going to be with us 2, 3, maybe 4 years. We're going to train you, and then you're going to be out on your own. You're going to be a business for yourself.
They didn't want that. Oh, my goodness.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct.
So what did you do?
Well,
you said, then I'm going to start a business?
I had no money to get in the business, so I decided to accept one of the offers that I had with Reynolds Tobacco. They had started their Archer aluminum division. And that's private label household foil like you have in the kitchen, plus Christmas wrapping papers and foils. And so I was in Winston-Salem training, and it so happened that they had a hard time. They couldn't get their foot in the door with Rose's department store that was headquartered in Henderson, North Carolina, in their back door.
Yeah.
So I kept saying, let me try. And they finally relented. They had nothing to lose. So I remember that my mother had said that a lady, Helen Costales, was working for Rose's department stores. So I called Helen and I said, Helen, you do not know me, but you know my parents, and I need a favor from you. Can you get me an appointment with Mr. Seal, the purchasing guy for our products? She said, you're in luck. I know you better than you think.
Okay.
And when can you come? Because I've been his secretary for 17 years. I said, tomorrow morning. So in the next morning, I walked in his office, and my picture with the helicopters at the village was on his wall.
Oh, wow.
The Associated Press had picked it up, and it was in the Henderson paper, and
Oh,
she had
wow.
seen it, had cut it out, told them all about it. And I was
Small world, that's when you
fortunate,
go, it's a
like,
small
world.
So did you start after that now?
So, and then I was sent to Chicago,
Yeah.
to the Plum Territory, calling on Sears and Kmart and Walgreens, and
Sure.
and I wanted to come back to Charlotte. So, and by that time, my parents were still in Greece, and I had my little sister
Okay.
with me in Chicago, and I wanted both of us to come back home.
Yeah.
So I was on a plane ride one time, and I happened to sit next to Paul J. Meyer, president of Success Motivation Institute.
Okay.
So he blew me away
With his speech.
with his concept
Yeah.
about personal development, sales training, management training. And so I decided to get a franchise and call myself Motivational Associates and come to Charlotte to represent Success Motivation Institute.
Now, I hate to cut you off because I only have a few minutes to go.
Okay.
So I really want to know, how did you get Showmar started? Because it is amazing for me that you have so many, 28 locations now?
That's correct.
28 locations,
correct.
and then so many hundreds of employees
That's
in
correct.
your organization.
That's correct.
And Showmars, how did you get it started, and what is the philosophy?
Well,
Of
it's
Showmars.
interesting. The,
Yeah.
the Motivational Associates was more like a pyramid sales scheme.
Yeah.
And once I caught on to that, I
Really
and
understood.
So with a $5,000 loan that my brother signed,
Wow.
I started Mr. C Southern Country Chicken. This
Okay.
was the fried chicken business at the time.
Like Kentucky.
Well, my people are tired of hearing of the chicken litany, but everybody and his brother got into it, from Kentucky Fried Chicken to Sunny Chicken, Holly Farms, Minnie Pearl, Roy Rogers,
Yeah.
Eddie Arnold, Yogi Bear, you name it. So I had to find a niche, and that niche was I wanted to be between fast food and full service by offering a greater selection and better quality than fast food,
Yeah.
but better,
Something
faster
quick.
service and
Yes.
better value than full service. So consequently, I opened the first Showmars on Independence Boulevard across from City Chevrolet, where Pop Hendricks used to come and eat. So there, I put everything under the sun and then whittled it out in order to find the most affordable items, the most appealing items that could be cooked to order and offered value. That's how
You got
the
started.
concept, correct.
As I only have about 2 minutes or so, what is the secret that you can, for you to have just getting started with a small restaurant, and then here you're with multiple locations with so many employees, what are the primary things? What are the value systems? What are the things that you obviously have given something and instilled in your employees that has really resulted in a success that
Well,
you have?
the first and foremost thing is you've got to have a desire, enthusiasm, the passion to serve people.
Yeah.
And this is what I love most of all. I'm a people person. And then when you speak about people, the most critical thing, I cannot do it alone.
Yes,
And
I understand.
and I was fortunate enough to be able to find, and people really, some found me, like Konstantin Zichas, our present CEO, that was in Roanoke, Virginia, where my sister's husband was a priest there. And he found me, and I in turn found a great partner that truly complimented me, where I had the vision, I had the concept, and he had the patience to train and to
actually do it.
delegate. And so, and then Dean Peroulis joined, and we continued to grow with a family type
Family type,
atmosphere,
yeah.
where we had people that became family, and continue in that way. And every one of our managing partners and managers who are sharing, profit sharing, have bought into that culture and that sense of urgency of serving people quickly with consistent quality and service.
All of you had the same passion, had the same goal and same passion to serve people. And, you know, it's been a pleasure talking with you. And like I said, some of these I wish I had more time, but it's been an honor speaking with you. Thank you for being on our show.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for watching Charlotte, a city of international success. I'm Dr. Maha Gingrich. Please join us again next time.